All right. Hello. Welcome back. This video is going to be a part of a series about how to thwart your opponent's weapons. So this is number 1, and this is for tennis strategy 201 and 301, especially because as we get more detailed, it becomes more of a 301 thing. It relies on your ability to hit targets in a more refined way. And also to think more. So as you play tennis, it's a thinking person's game, thinking man's game, thinking person, people, women, men, right? So the serve, all right. So there are lots of different ways that the opponent can attack you with their serve. And, the first and most obvious one is when they have a strong flat serve as their first serve, a powerful first serve. So my favorite first intervention for that, before I get into that, let's talk about what is the goal. All right, let's say you're playing a match and early on you're only winning 37% of the points when the opponent hits their first serve. But as you go along, you can get that to 39% and 41%. That's really good. Now, on the Pro Tour, men may win 72 to 75% of their first serve points. So what does that leave? It leaves 28 to 25% for the returner, right? But the closer you can get to 30% at that level, the better, right? Because then you're reducing the percentage on the other side. In the women's game, it's more like 65% they win their first serve points. So approximately 2/3 of the time. So the idea isn't that by making a change, you're all of a sudden going to win anywhere close to 100% of the points. The idea is that you're going to get a percentage here and a percentage there, and you're going to be able to make things more difficult for the server. That's our objective. And then, especially in hard court tennis, really hard court tennis is one you break serve more often by doing something to their second serve, but we'll get to that next. All right, so that's also a part of the strategy, but right now we're just going to focus on returning that hard flat serve. And my first intervention that I like in that regard is to shorten your backswings. So don't do anything positionally. First, just try to be as compact as you can without giving up any real estate, because once you start moving further back, then you're not playing where you want to play. So shorter backswings, number 1. All right. Number 2, eliminate the attempt to hit topspin. It's actually true that you're more likely to hit a cleaner return the flatter you hit it back. So the more you're addressing your racket straight to the ball, pretty much flush right on, that is going to be the cleanest return that you can hit. All right. The next thing is return it back to the server, because changing the direction of the ball is not the safest thing to do. The safest thing is to hit it back the very direction that it came from. And then finally, you may find success by slicing the ball back, because you can use the power that's on the serve to give you all that you need to be able to hit a nice solid slice shot back. So those are some different options in terms of your stroke technique, right? But then the next piece, the next easiest piece, is to just simply move back. So at first you might want to start 1 foot back. And if you're still not able to get a beat on their serve, then the next time start 2 feet back. And just very slowly. So don't, if you go 5 feet back all of a sudden, then, you might be changing the rhythm way too much for yourself. So just gradually over time, just start going a little bit further back, until you get to the place where you have enough time. Because here's an interesting thing. The ball slows down an awful lot. John Yandel, a number of years back, did some super slow-mo video and some analysis of Pete Sampras serving to Andre Agassi, and he found that at contact, the ball was going like 125 miles an hour right there. But before it even hit the ground on the other side, it was going like 85 miles an hour. And then when after it hit the ground, it was only going 65 miles an hour. And then it would get to Agassi, depending on how much spin it had, at 45 or even 55 miles an hour. And then Agassi would hit back like an 80-mile return. And then the announcers would say, oh, he hit it back faster than it came. But that's the way it looked to the naked eye. But when you actually get into looking at the super slow motion video, you can see that the serve had actually slowed down more. So it stands to reason that adding another foot of length or 2 feet or 3 feet is going to help slow that ball down for you. So look at Medvedev and Nadal. I mean, they both stand pretty far back. Other players have been noted for their very deep return positioning, because that's what they need to do. That's what they want to do. They want to create this time thing. Anyway, now one of the more subtle things that you can do is you can start to identify where is the most common serving location that your opponent is serving to. So if they happen to hit a lot of them to the outside corner, or they hit a lot to the tee, or they're coming at your body, then what you want to do is you want to shift your positioning to cover that ball the most, because that's what's coming most often. So the better you can do at the thing that happens the most, the better. So sometimes what I'll do is someone's serving to the corner, they're trying to serve wide a lot. So I will take first 1 step, I'll move 1 step farther over to that place. And if I'm still getting past me, then I might take 2 steps over and just start, 2 feet further over. But then of course, and then, then when that player, realizes that you're doing that, what are they going to do? They're going to go and they're going to try to hit to the opening button. Maybe they're not comfortable doing that. Maybe they don't have as high a percentage of first serves going to the location that's not their favorite. I don't know. And so, there's no cookie cutter solution here. So you have to look at it and you have to say, okay, is it working or is it not working? Because, at some point you're going to go, all right, I moved 2 feet over it, and now they're hitting balls down the tee for aces that I can't even touch. So that's when you can take it to the next level. And so if that's true, then the next thing that I like to do is vary my return position to try to dictate to my opponent where they're going to serve. So first I'll take this one away, and now I'm expecting the ball down the tee, so I'm really leaning on that one. And then if I go over there and I protect against the one going down the tee, now I'm really leaning on the other one, because you can sort of manipulate the server to some extent. When you play somebody who's so good that even when you're protecting, they can still beat you, well, it's going to be a tough day at the office. So there's no getting around that. All right, so that's a lot of material on just how to go against somebody who has a hard flat serve. But now we're going to get into the spin serves, right? So So let's say somebody has a really nice kick serve and it bounces really high and you're having a hard time, keeping it in the court. This is one thing I've noticed is that when I was playing at the top of my game with a strong kick serve, I would get a lot of returns that would go 5 feet long because, I was putting tons of spin on the ball and it's going up their racket and it's flying up in the air, and they were frustrated, and that made me feel good. But when smart players though would do this, and this is probably the best thing you could do on a kick serve, is come closer. You want to stand at the baseline or maybe even inside the baseline so that you can come forward and try to take that ball before it gets up too much. So it's not often that you can really actually take the ball on the rise, but on a kick serve you can, because if that ball is going to jump up 6 feet off the ground or 7 or more, then you definitely can take it at 4 feet off the ground and it's rising. So that's one of the best things you can do. That's obviously a tennis 301 move. This is not something that the tennis 201 player is going to pull off. So it's not often that you see someone between a 3-0 and a 4-0 who's going to come forward and take a kick serve on the rise. It's very definitely a 4-5 level thing. And as you go up, then players are better able to accomplish this. Now, a technical aspect of that is you want to keep your racket up so that you can go through the ball. And then you might actually, depending on the amount of spin, you might actually have your racket tilted slightly closed so that the ball will go forward instead of up your racket. So a slightly closed racket. There was a match I remember playing with a guy, and he had a tremendous left-handed kick serve, and so we had to go like that. It was nuts, right? But that's pretty rare, and you have to really be facing tons of spin for that to happen, for you to do that. I see a lot of people so-called covering the ball on shots that don't deserve that, and then they end up getting balls in the net and they wonder why. So you have to be careful generalizing this advice. It's for a very specific thing. All right, and then also then you want to get a bead on where are they serving. Is there a basic place that they're serving? Because you kind of want to wait with that grip if they're serving to a certain spot. A lot of times people who are hitting kick serves are going to hit kick serves to the backhand, right? So you might be holding a forehand grip, but you got to be ready to switch to that backhand grip like that. All right. So that's pretty much my one solution for that. Sometimes if you're just not able to get a bead on it, then you may want to stand farther back and let that ball come down, and then hit a lob back up. Because driving that ball might be a mistake, because you're going to be pushed so far back that if they're coming in behind that to volley, or they're waiting for you to hit a short ball, you don't want to oblige that. So be prepared to take that ball and hit a high, hard, heavy top spin shot back deep, or a lob. It can work really well. All right, so now slice serves, right? And righty lefty makes a big difference. So a righty is going to be pulling you that way. So one of the little tricky things that you do want to do is you want to angle yourself slightly towards where it's coming from, because if you stand this way, you're going to be pulled off the court more. But if you stand this way, then you can go and you can cut off that angle of the arc of that ball much better. So it's a really subtle thing that you can do. So turn towards the angle of the racket, turns towards the angle of the arc of the ball, and then again, you'll take a step this way. You take a foot, and start a little further over until you can take that away, and just keep going until you find that spot where you know. And a little caveat: don't guard against perfect serves. I mean, if they hit a ball and it just barely comes over the net and it's like 5 feet from the net and it hits the line right there, I mean, just clap, because you can't guard against a perfect shot. This is not going to happen. But the ones that are realistically going in often, those are the ones that you need to protect yourself against, especially if you're missing them a lot. And the same thing's true of a lefty, right? But the interesting thing about a lefty playing a righty is that some lefties are really not able to straighten their serve out very well. So they tend to some lefties hit slice or a little bit of kick on everything that they hit. I've coached a few players like that who it took considerable amount of effort for them to learn how to hit a true flat serve. Other left-handed players don't really seem to spin the ball that much, which is odd to me, but I've coached a couple of players like that too. Well, anyway, so one thing if you're playing one of those left-handed players who seems to always spin the ball, it might be a good idea for you to wait with a backhand grip, because that ball, if you're a righty, is going that away. So you want to be ready for the thing that's going to happen the most. And instead of moving to the area that you're going to go to and hope for some forehands, you might actually move one step away and try to hit more backhands. Right. So one thing that's really important to do is never slice a slice. This is a great thing that I learned a little too late in life. But when somebody's slicing you the ball and you try to slice it back, it's very difficult to get any kind of pace on that shot. So you're just going to be setting yourself up for disaster. So you're going to want to go through that ball and hit a pretty flat ball on that. It's also going to be a little harder to time top spin on that. So get out there, put a racket on it, and bunt it back. That ball's also going to want to go off of your racket with that spin. So you have to time that and counteract that spin to some degree, and figure out exactly where do you need to make contact so you're not hitting wide. But that's also another interesting point too, is that when someone slices to you, they are opening up the opportunity for you to hit an angled shot back. And if you're quite good at that, you can take advantage of that. The other interesting thing is that they also open up an opening down the line. But that's a pretty risky shot, because a lot of times you're going to be outside the court, and then you're going to have to hit the ball, inside the court from the outside, and that's a little bit of a tricky angle. But you can frustrate some people if you get that ball and it's out until it lands in at the last minute, and then that can discourage them from hitting any more of those slicers. So now the final thing I want to end with is that the more you attack someone's second serve, then that's psychologically, that can lead to them being less aggressive on their first serve. So let's say they're serving 55% of their first serves in, right? But they've been really effective on those first serves, or even 60%. But you're attacking their second serve. So however you like to attack, do you come to the net? Do you go for a strong return? Do you hit an angle? Do you hit drop shots? What do you do, right? Do you slice, viciously and junk up their timing? There's all sorts of different ways to attack second serve. My favorite is to come to the net. But then what will happen is they're going to realize, oh man, if I have to hit a second serve, I'm under attack. So it's pretty, unless they don't have a brain in their head, and sometimes you meet the brainless player out there, and it does happen. They're going to make the adjustment of putting more first serves in play. Well, then, but what you've accomplished is that you made them less aggressive on their first serve, which will then help you in all other areas. So these are some ways that you can get incremental improvements and go from, so every few games gain another percentage point of how effective you are. And then by the end of the match, then you can really swing the decision. Oh, pardon me. Swing the decision in your favor. So anyway, thanks for watching. Please comment. I always go back and look at the comments. Use your social digital currency. Press like, subscribe. And then Tennis Strategy 101. My print books, my initial print books arrived. And so if you're one of those people that has reviewed the book, I will be sending you yours shortly. So and this is my standing promise, is that if you go ahead and buy a book, could be the ebook even, and review it, I will send you a signed print book copy, because those reviews really make a difference for me. So thank you for all the people who have reviewed my books, and thank you for pressing like on this video and subscribing and sharing it with a friend. Tomorrow, I'm going to be talking about playing against somebody who's a strong returner and what we can do to kind of thwart their return game. And, a lot of it is very psychological, because there are some things that they do that can seem sort of insurmountable, but, there are some little tricky ways to go about that. And thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Take good care.